Val Kilmer was one of Hollywood's brightest stars, effortlessly cool, endlessly talented, and destined to be a leading man for decades. But not far into his career, it all started to unravel. He clashed with directors, famously getting into a physical altercation with Batman Forever's Joel Schumacher, and his intense method acting often pushed things too far. As the stories piled up, so did his reputation, until studios stopped calling and his star power faded. But what really happened? Was he truly impossible to work with, or just a passionate actor who challenged his directors and co-stars in pursuit of a better film? To find out, let's take a closer look behind the scenes and explore why Hollywood gave up on Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer never wanted to be in Top Gun. He thought the script was silly and disliked its glorification of war, but was contractually obligated by the studio to appear in it. And he was cast as Iceman, the icy rival to Tom Cruise's Maverick. Once on set, Kilmer leaned into the tension, manufacturing a real-life rivalry with Cruise to enhance their on-screen dynamic. He kept his distance from Cruise off-camera and formed his own squad with the actors playing Slider, Hollywood, and Wolfman, echoing the divide in the film between them and Goose and Maverick. The tension bled into their performances, most memorably in a scene where Kilmer improvised a dismissive cough followed by the word bullshit, subtly calling out Maverick's bragging. It wasn't in the script, but it became one of Iceman's most iconic moments, and a perfect example of Kilmer blurring the line between performance and reality. Despite his reluctance to appear in the film, Top Gun became Kilmer's breakout role and turned him into a leading man. After seeing him in Willow, director Oliver Stone believed Val Kilmer had the raw intensity to channel Jim Morrison in his biopic of The Doors. Kilmer took that challenge to heart. He went full method, immersing himself so deeply in the role that it sometimes went too far. During auditions, actress Caitlin O'Heaney alleged that Kilmer, swept up in an emotionally charged scene, struck her in the face and knocked her to the ground, while Stone laughed and the casting director looked on. A police report was filed and the incident was later settled out of court. Kilmer claimed she struck him first, while the casting director described the moment as mutual escalation. Yet it only added fuel to the growing fire surrounding Kilmer's volatile commitment to his craft. Kilmer also refused to have his clothes cleaned to maintain the character's grungy realism, and clashed with director Oliver Stone over the film's portrayal of Morrison's drug use. Kilmer felt the film romanticized it, while Stone insisted it was meant to be a cautionary tale. Tensions boiled over when Kilmer distributed a memo among cast and crew listing rules for how he was to be treated on set. No one could approach him without reason, look him in the eye, or call him anything other than Jim while he was in character. An upset Stone contacted Kilmer's agent, who claimed it was intended for Kilmer's own team and not the crew. But by then, the damage was done, as Kilmer began to develop a reputation for being difficult, but also willing to go to great lengths, sometimes extreme ones, to disappear into a role. On Tombstone, this was no different, as Val Kilmer delivered one of the most legendary performances of his career as Doc Holliday. Despite the troubled production, which saw the original director fired and Kurt Russell quietly taking over much of the directing, co-star Michael Biehn noted Kilmer never acted out, never crossed the line, and was always ready when it was time to shoot. However, Tombstone's first director would later say there was a dark side to Val that I don't feel comfortable talking about. To embody Holliday's slow death from tuberculosis, Kilmer went all in, filling his bed with ice for the character's final scene, to mimic the cold, creeping sensation of dying, and wearing an irritating gel on his face and neck to create the appearance of constant sweat. While he still walked around the set complaining about the discomfort from the gel, he used the pain to fuel the performance. Biehn would later say, "People ask me what it was like to work with Val Kilmer. I don't know. Never met him. Never shook his hand. I know Doc Holliday, but I don't know Kilmer." When Kilmer was in second grade, his father took him and his brothers to visit the set of the Batman TV show starring Adam West, an experience that ended with young Val sitting in the Batmobile, dreaming of someday becoming the Caped Crusader himself. Decades later, while in Africa and shortly after exploring an actual Batcave, that dream came full circle when his agent called him with an offer to play Batman in Batman Forever. With Michael Keaton stepping away from the role due to creative differences, unhappy with the new, more family-friendly direction director Joel Schumacher wanted to take the franchise, Warner Brothers was looking for a fresh face to take over the role. Kilmer was so caught up in the excitement of playing his childhood hero that he abandoned his usual protocol of reading the script or meeting with the director, and accepted the role on the spot. But that excitement quickly faded once filming began. Kilmer found the Batsuit to be physically miserable, so tight and heavy he needed help just to sit or stand, and so isolating he couldn't hear the people around him. After a while, people just stopped talking to me, he later said. It was a struggle for me to get a performance past the suit, and it was frustrating until I realized that my role in the film was just to show up and stand where I was told to. Kilmer was reportedly jealous that Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones got to embrace larger-than-life expressive roles, while he was stuck playing the straight man, trapped in a rubber suit, isolated, and unable to truly act. That mounting frustration began to spill over. Kilmer reportedly became increasingly difficult on set, lashing out at crew members and clashing with Schumacher. He was being irrational and ballistic with the first AD, the cameraman, and the costume people, the director later recalled. He was badly behaved, he was rude and inappropriate. Tensions escalated into a physical pushing match between actor and director, followed by 2 weeks of total silence between them, which Schumacher would call bliss. The massive success of Batman Forever led Warner Brothers to fast-track a sequel, eager to keep the momentum going with another installment of the franchise. But when it came time to suit up again for Batman and Robin, Val Kilmer was out. According to director Joel Schumacher, he sort of quit, we sort of fired him. It probably depends on who's telling the story. Officially, Kilmer was under contract for a second film, but had committed to starring in The Saint for Paramount, with the end of filming overlapping with the start date of Batman and Robin. When Warner Brothers reminded Paramount of Kilmer's obligation, the studio reportedly panicked, threatening to move forward on The Saint without him. In response, Kilmer said he dropped Batman instead, seemingly expecting Warner Brothers to delay the start of filming Batman and Robin to accommodate his schedule. However, Warner Brothers didn't blink and released him from his contract, angering Schumacher, who was left scrambling to find a replacement at the 11th hour, eventually settling on George Clooney. Kilmer, meanwhile, insisted he was simply unaware the Batman sequel was being rushed into production and had already committed to The Saint and Heat by the time he found out. The move significantly hurt Kilmer's reputation in Hollywood. Batman Forever had launched him into the stratosphere, and signing on as the new face of a franchise as massive as Batman, only to walk away after one film and show no flexibility with the studio, was seen as both ungrateful and unprofessional. Unfortunately, Kilmer's reputation only continued to decline. On Heat, Al Pacino reportedly got into a heated argument with him after witnessing Kilmer mistreat an assistant, while his behavior on his next film, The Island of Dr. Moreau, would cement his reputation as being truly difficult to work with. Eager to work with Marlon Brando, Kilmer joined The Island of Dr. Moreau after Bruce Willis dropped out, but only under the condition that his shooting schedule be reduced by 40%. Director Richard Stanley, eager to keep the production moving and recognizing that Kilmer, fresh off Batman Forever, was a major box office draw, agreed, reworking the script and shifted Kilmer's part from a lead role to a supporting role. But almost immediately, trouble followed. Kilmer arrived 2 days late to the Australian set and quickly became a disruptive force. He refused to rehearse, regularly undermined Stanley's direction, and was openly hostile toward crew members. One infamous incident involved Kilmer allegedly singeing a crew member's sideburn with a lit cigarette, something he claimed was accidental, caused by cramped camera blocking and a request to blow smoke near the lens. Back in Hollywood, the studio, after watching the footage that had been shot, lost confidence in Stanley, blaming him for being unable to control Kilmer's behavior. After just 3 days of filming, Stanley was fired from his own passion project. Veteran director John Frankenheimer was then brought in to replace Stanley, but even he couldn't get Kilmer under control. Kilmer later blamed his behavior on the emotional toll of a divorce he was going through at the time, news he claimed to have discovered through the news, and his volatile state only added fuel to an already combustible set. Marlon Brando, notoriously difficult in his own right, was grappling with the recent suicide of his daughter, making him distant and unpredictable. Pairing the two was a recipe for disaster. Their relationship quickly devolved into open hostility, with tensions peaking during a now infamous standoff in which neither actor would leave their trailer until the other did, halting production for hours. Brando eventually demanded his trailer be moved far away from Kilmer's, and during one heated exchange, reportedly snapped, "The problem is you confused your talent with the size of your paycheck." By the time Kilmer wrapped his final scene, Frankenheimer had had enough. Turning to the crew, he said, "Now get that bastard off my set." Later adding bluntly, "I don't like Val Kilmer, I don't like his work ethic, and I don't want to be associated with him ever again." When The Island of Dr. Moreau finally limped into theaters, the behind-the-scenes chaos was painfully evident. The film bombed, both critically and commercially, and the fallout further damaged Kilmer's already crumbling reputation, marking a sharp turning point in the decline of his once red-hot career. Afterwards, offers for top-tier roles began to slow. Kilmer found himself headlining weaker projects like Red Planet, where he yet again clashed with a co-star, this time Tom Sizemore. The film bombed, further eroding his box office appeal and reinforcing the industry's growing reluctance to cast him as a leading man. Still, Kilmer remained a genuinely gifted actor. He continued to show flashes of brilliance, most notably in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, where his sharp wit and magnetic presence reminded audiences why he had once been one of Hollywood's brightest stars. In truth, Kilmer may have always been better suited to character roles than conventional leading man parts, thriving when allowed to fully inhabit offbeat, layered characters. Kilmer would later defend his reputation, suggesting that his so-called difficult behavior stemmed from a deep passion for the craft and a relentless drive to elevate the work, pushing boundaries, challenging collaborators, and refusing to settle for anything less than what he believed served the truth of the story, but in doing so, he acknowledged that he may have burned bridges with powerful figures across the industry. Tragically, his career was cut short when he was diagnosed with throat cancer, a battle that reduced his voice to a rasp and ultimately brought an end to his time in the spotlight. Thanks for watching, everybody, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Bullets and Blockbusters for more great content.